By the way, just a quick aside, there's another area where I don't believe the Overwatch League or any of these leagues can be held accountable. So when Nate Nancer was there, who by all accounts you guys like, you think he's a great guy, I've always told Monty this, he never did his job. His job was commissioner of the league, right? I always say this, who is the most hated man in the NFL? It isn't some guy who tackles a guy with his head and cripples him. It isn't someone who like just says something mental after he's had CTE. It's Roger Goodell, the guy whose job is commissioner, because his job is to eat a steaming pile of shit every time something goes wrong. Dana White in the UFC, every time the fans don't get the fight they want or they think someone else should have gotten that title shot, he's a shill, he's a scumbag, he's a sellout, he's only doing it for money. These guys actually have the balls, though, to face the press. They go in front of those cameras, and if you're Dana White, by the way, he's G'd up, mate. He just says whatever the fuck he wants. He just tell you how it is, whether it's true or not.
You turn it into a character. Yeah, if
this is the problem.
Into a character, you know.
This is the problem.
Hey, you're the heel, you know.
I literally asked Nate Nancer to come on shows. No response. I've never seen proper press conferences. Again, I'm not talking about the shit at those homestands where the guy asking you the question is a nobody journalist who's only writing for that because he got a ticket by working. No, I'm not asking about that. I'm talking about real journalism, right? If you were a real league, by the way, you would actually just do an interview with Richard. And because what you'd do is you'd say, I'm smarter than him, so I'll talk around him. Here's the problem, right?
Just as a point on that, though.
Yeah, go on.
Just as a point on that, Duncan, like, that isn't Nate. Like, I'ma tell you right. First of all, we all know about the Activision.
Then the job's the fraud of a position, isn't it? Can't do that position.
Sure, but like, so if you're made a commissioner of something, but it's also part of that fucking job description that you will only do the pre-approved media stuff. And I know Monty and Doa know what I'm talking about because it applied to fucking cast. It applied to everyone from the top down. The idea that Nate had autonomy is a fiction.
We literally got into a fight with the PR people in the league because they would receive requests from press and deny them without talking to us. So we the casters had to get in a massive fight with Blizzard's own PR department about that because they weren't even telling us.
But here's the problem.
On the other side of the equation, they also told all of the on broadcast talent, it's not our job to promote your Twitters and social media pages. So on the one hand, they wanted complete autonomy over what they were to say, but when it came to like maybe promoting them via their metrics, they literally barefaced said to the talent, it's not our job to big you up because they don't understand the concept of a rising tide.
This is a lot of the year 2 stuff that we're getting into. Year 1 was quite good.
Year 1 was much different.
Year 2 when the change of leadership happened at the top, and there was a lot of other things that happened, and this was one of the things that happened along with that, where they're just that. And again, one of the reasons I left at the time was that there was just no investment into the talent in the league, right? Where we're investing 100% of our time into the Overwatch League. Monty and I moved halfway across planet Earth for this league because we believed in the concept and we believed we could make it work. It was crazy, but we thought it was awesome. We wanted to make it work, right? But yeah, so then getting there, and then year 2, they cut Watchpoint, the show that Monty and I were doing. They tried to call the pre-show Watchpoint. Then the stuff with the social media, they just wouldn't invest in us as the talent. I don't know why. I suspect it's because, the bigger they are, the more leverage they have in negotiations. The
riot approach. Yeah, we all know that one.
But that's a whole different conversation. But, then at that point, you kind of, as a caster, you're kind of like, well, why am I really doing this, right? I'm putting everything I've got into this and I'm getting nothing in return, right? And you at least want to feel appreciated at the end of the day.
Well, perfect. You've just hit how I'm going to segue back into my point, which is this. If there had been a real commissioner, do you know one of the questions a real commissioner would have to answer every single week of season 1? Why is it okay that the Shanghai Dragons never win a game and don't even look like they're going to win a game? That would be a question every week he would answer. Now, the reason why he doesn't answer these questions is because from day 1, they had to have known this was bullshit. Because anyone else, by the way, uses the opposite logic, Monty. There's no such thing as bad PR. My motherfucking career is proof of it. You all keep trying to shut me down. I can't make the Twitter followers go down. I can't ban people fast enough to stop people following, even when they hear that I'm banning people. People join just to try and get banned. So here's the problem I have, right? I'll spin it into what I just alluded to about Doa there. So then, right, the reason I know it isn't just Nate Nancer, Monty, is because when Nate Nancer left, in came a guy temporarily called John Spector. Maybe that was 2 years later, actually. When John Spector came in, he was temporarily put in that position.
He was there before the league started.
Actually. Yeah.
As commissioner, I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
He's still not technically commissioner, but he is basically commissioner.
So here's the problem I have, right?
To do that job. for one.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though. I'll never, ever accept as an excuse from someone. My boss made me say it, then you are scum, because the second you said it, you co-signed it, and then you said it. It's your mouth it comes out of, by the way, mate. No, but there's no puppet master behind your brain. You chose to do that. So even though the sad thing about the John Spector guy is, I didn't even know until the name's clocked in my brain that he's like the brother of Beezy, who was like a pretty cool analyst guy who'd had on my shows. Otherwise, I'd have gone 10 times harder at this motherfucker. Because what people will forget is this. So what did he do? Did he face the press? Did he do stuff? No. He not only didn't he, but he got away with outrageous lies publicly that he wasn't even called on, because most people in the industry just think, no point burning bridges. So for example, the people in this call now, my buddy Semler, the top talent in the entire world, I'm talking 1A level talent in esports, triple A, you cannot get better than this. These people, when they left Overwatch League, right, and there was news stories and people like Richard intimating maybe they didn't have a happy negotiation, maybe they were asked to take a pay cut, maybe they were even given insulting new terms that just removed certain things you wanted. John Spector didn't even have the good grace to just be like, okay, we're just going to say that they left. They left. We're trying some new people. If you were smart, here's the PR move. You say, look, the nature of the league is we're going to try some development aspects and we're going to work. No, he did that, but he then implied that they'd chosen those brand new people who would accept less money. He implied they chose them over that AAA talent I was talking about before. So again, this role of commissioner isn't even playing its role. It's actually just like chief marketing agent.
And I also implied that the people that were leaving weren't as loyal as the people they were keeping.
Okay,
there was a couple different things.
Several things there. So first off,
go ahead.
Pete Leselica was commissioner at the time. So after Nate left, Pete took the commissioner title. And here's an interesting conversation I had personally with Pete, which was, he told me, I said, are you going, because we thought John would be the next commissioner. And John is still not technically commissioner, I think, but he is basically commissioner at this point in time. I think John is technically commissioner now. I don't know. But at the time, Pete insisted that Pete was commissioner. And he told me that Nate was never commissioner because in spirit, that Pete was always basically the commissioner because he was the one doing all of the business stuff, not Nate, which is also kind of not true. And so he was not going to give up the title of commissioner, even though this guy literally knows nothing about like league operations or rules or anything.
Won't appear in interviews.
Won't appear in interviews, which is a problem with Nate as well, as you were saying. I think Nate did make many more public appearances than Pete ever did because Pete was just a ghost. But
hasn't said shit since.
So
that was the big thing, is that Nate was always around the studio too. Pete,
was never there. And he lives in LA, by the way. So the other thing is that, so technically when that was happening, Pete was commissioner, and John did say, he did say some stuff publicly that we all took offense over and called him out on. And he apologized to me personally about that and did walk back.
Relevant. If you say something publicly, you apologize publicly. That's a rule.
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing is that the person who started that was Pete Leselica, who started this stuff. It wasn't John. Pete was the one because Pete is used to getting away with this stuff and he doesn't understand esports, which is why we all clapped back on him so hard. I publicly called him a liar, which he was lying about what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And the funniest thing was that because I had already moved on and was working with Cloud9 and B-Site, right? Pete was then behind the scenes going to the team owners of B-Site being like, please make Monty stop. Please make Monty stop. They didn't put a non-disparagement clause in my contract. So they couldn't control what I was saying at all. Like there was no mechanism besides him groveling to the team owners about this, which then they thought was hilarious.
Right. So I think
Dawn wants to get in. Come on.
I think you're blending a couple things together too, where like the negative stuff really did begin with Pete. And I think John said some things that we took issue with too, which he then immediately walked back. And I think he did do that publicly in the Reddit thread as well.
Yes.
He did. And I believe, after talking to him personally as well, that he didn't really intend to say what he said. He kind of just typed it out poorly. And I will say, I believe that behind the scenes, again, from talking to him and knowing what's going on, he was really one of the people kind of like holding everything together while all this was going on. So I actually have a very positive view of John Spector. I think he gets a lot of crap he doesn't deserve because he's really like all the pieces are falling apart and he's like trying to just put it all together while things above him are going insane. And I do think he misspoke publicly, but he did apologize personally to me And he also walked it back in that Reddit thread as well. Whereas Pete, like that, that's a whole different thing.
The problem with this
kind of
is
blending those things together a little bit.
Let this be a lesson in the industry. If you take a spokesperson's permission and you say things, that will be judged as what you're saying. That is the way it works. Like, that is the position he had. So here's my problem, Monty. It's the same thing I've told you about Riot for like a decade at this point in time. It's that it can't always be that, like, no, but they fired that guy now they've got a good guy. The top people never leave the company. They were the ones who hired the bad people in the first place based on their own philosophy of life and business and their hierarchy of values. So essentially what you're telling me is, like, a tyrant removed someone who was corrupt, who was enforcing his will, and he's hired a good guy now. That never short circuits the system, in my opinion.
No. Because here's the difference, right? I agree with you about what you're saying about Riot, and the difference is that what happened with Overwatch League was that Nate was in charge, and then they hired Pete above Nate, right? And they hired other people above Nate when Nate was the one who had this idea. Nate was supposed to be the one running it, and then Nate hired John. So really, I view John as part of the Nate Danzer positive legacy.
It's actually a miracle he's survived this long.
Yeah, it is.
I'm surprised they didn't remove him when they,
So like, while I appreciate what you're saying, I don't view. There were a lot of people that were hired by Nate that I quite like. It's just that there was a process of overruling these people's ideas and people's philosophies that has now been, what I'm saying is that has been removed. Now, I don't know anything about the new CEO, so I can't opine on his direction, his vision, what he's doing with the company. But I can say that there are a lot of people that I trust and who I think who are good at Overwatch League still, and that these people have now been empowered, which I find as a positive result.